and for your interest in learning about our neighborhood middle schools. This evening, you will hear from the leadership of Jefferson Academy, Eliot Hine Middle School, Stuart Hobson Middle School, and Capitol Hill Montessori at Logan. We also have the principal from Eastern High School because all of these middle schools feed into Eastern. Claudia Lujan, who is our moderator for the evening, will engage the principals in a discussion. And then at the end, we have two parents, Jean Kohanek, who is a parent of an Eliot Hine student, and Catherine Lux Fry, a parent of a Stuart Hobson student. They will share some of their experiences with our middle schools. You're welcome to put your questions in the chat throughout the discussion, and we will monitor the chat and try our best to get through as many of your questions as possible. Sandra Moscoso is our Zoom master for the evening, and Sandra will be putting up some polls during the evening that we encourage you to participate in. I'd like to introduce you to Claudia Lujan, who is our moderator. Claudia is the Chief of Staff at the Education Trust, and she has almost 2 decades of experience working in public education in DC. She worked in the Deputy Mayor for Education's office and served as the Deputy Chief of Planning and Enrollment at DCPS. And Claudia has a deep understanding of our middle schools. About 10 years ago, Claudia was the DCPS lead for an implementation plan for the Ward 6 middle schools that led to the start of the International Baccalaureate program at Eliot Hine and the creation of the middle school at Capitol Hill Montessori at Logan. Before we begin, I want to mention that Marlene Magrino has another appointment this evening and has to leave at 7:30, but her assistant principal, Marlon Giles, will be here to represent Eliot Hine. So with that, I am going to turn over to Claudia.
Great. Hello, folks. It's great to be here, and particularly seeing a lot of parents. I know 7 p.m. evening, it's like in the middle of all the things, dinner, homework, all those things. So I appreciate everybody being and listening and joining today's conversation. Also great to see all the principals. I'm happy to be here to sort of walk folks through the conversation tonight, and definitely want to hear from all the school principals and get as many questions answered as possible. I started this work, as Suzanne said, a while ago. When I started this work, and particularly the Ward 6 middle school plan, long time ago, probably like 12, 15 years ago. I had little kids, and now I actually have 2 middle schoolers myself. So this is very much and then 2 coming up to middle school in the next few years. So this very much is also an important topic as I put my parent hat on as well. So I'm gonna just jump in and really, before I jump into some questions that I have, I wanna just give every principal just a couple minutes to just say a little bit about themselves, but more so to answer one particular question that I think is helpful for all of us to understand, which is sort of what is your vision for your middle school? And so we're going to start. I'm going to actually start with Principal Magrino only because I know that she's going to be jumping off at 7:30. So if we start with you, and then we'll just popcorn around to the other principals. And you're on mute.
All right, I said sure, and thank you everybody for having us tonight. It's just great to be able to share more about our schools because we're doing great things. All my colleagues, and I think at Eliot Hine as well. My vision, my personal vision for middle schools, and I think this is maybe important to understand the approach we take overall, is that middle school is all about exposure to everything. Kids trying everything new, seeing, going places, seeing things, just having a lot of experiences so that they're curious and inquisitive. And that really connects to the vision of our school, which we're an international baccalaureate school. So all of our learning is rooted in inquiry-based learning, but also preparing students for a global world, having a global worldview, and participating in service learning, like understanding how they impact the world with their choices and actions, etc. So I think just really having authentic learning experiences, that's the kind of academic learning side and holistic side, But then also, we have a big focus on leadership, and that every child is a leader. And so we really want our students to have self-efficacy and believe that they are capable of doing all the things that they want to do. So my vision is that our students, our staff, our families, everybody feels like they can do and accomplish what they want to. And the context we give them to do that is this global world and service world where they can accomplish amazing things. And we see that every day.
Thank you. I'm going to turn it just sort of the folks that are next on my window screen, and that's Principal Frazier.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you, Suzanne and Claudia, for organizing this tonight. It is great to see all my colleagues because we don't see each other often enough. So similar to Principal Magrino, I think at Stuart Hobson, we have a pithy mantra that it's a place where students learn a lot and have fun. And those are two promises that we try to keep for students and hold as educators, just remembering that middle years are a time of intense development for youth, socially, academically, and otherwise. So we try to make sure that we build a program throughout the school day that offers students both ways to grow and learn a lot academically, but also ways to get to know themselves. And similar to Eliot Hine, to just get involved in experiencing different things, whether those are extracurriculars, athletics, or one of our many arts programs that we have. We find that those are spaces where students have the opportunity to build community, learn a lot about themselves, and develop as young people. And that creates the kind of the safety network that they need so that they can learn a lot when they're in class. Yeah, so I think learning a lot and have fun, and making sure that we have diverse experiences with diverse peers. Those are two things that we try to hold on to.
Awesome, thank you. I'm going to go to Principal Adechum.
Thank you. You even added a little tune to the end. That's how my husband pronounces it. I usually say aduchum, but it's really aduchum, but that's just way too much, right? So everyone knows that we are a Montessori school, and our vision is always to meet every student where they are and help them chart their own path to achieve their academic and social emotional goals, recognizing the importance of addressing the whole child. And as we're addressing the whole child and giving them a diversity of experiences, it leads them to understanding what is their niche and what is their specialization, so that they're never feeling like they have to be in a box and move forward and march to the beat of anyone else's drum, knowing that they still have to meet the basic requirements to graduate and get into a specialized high school or a school of their choice. But our whole goal is for them to discover themselves and to find their niche.
Great. I'm going to turn over to Principal Howard.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all also for putting this together and for being here. Nice to see so many faces actually on the screen tonight, as well as it is 7 o'clock and in the throes of all the things. Jefferson has historically been known for like a place where students love school. Like they love school and being the best school for all kids. As we move into next year, as many of you know, this was my first year at Jefferson. As we move into next year, we are shifting that slightly, where Jefferson is the best college preparatory middle school in DC for all kids. And by all, I do mean all. We have a 23% special education population, but we also want to make sure that we are preparing those students for the rigors of society and post-secondary options. Also, something that's very important to me, as middle school is my jam, as many people know, like middle school should also be fun. Kids should have opportunities to engage with their peers, and they should learn how to be socialized, right, in the world. And so that is what we're really pushing for. One of the things that I say on the end of announcements every day is be excellent today and every day. So I want students to be excellent and also to love school. And so that's really the direction that we'll be moving in over the next few years.
Great, thanks for that. And then I'll round it out with Principal Miller.
Thanks. Good evening, everybody, and thanks for the invite. I know I'm the only high school guy here, but I really have a lot of love for my middle school colleagues. I was a former middle school teacher, a former middle school administrator as well, and including at Stuart Hobson. So you know, a little bit about me. I've been lived in Ward 6 for well over a decade. My mother grew up here. My grandmother grew up here. So getting the opportunity to be the principal at Eastern has really been a dream come true for me. At Eastern, I think we try to build on a lot of what the other principals shared, which is the experiences that they're getting in middle school. We try to build on that and develop the whole child, as Principal Aduchum said, to really prepare them to thrive in a global world. You know, DC is a very international cosmopolitan city. A lot of our students don't have that background. So really preparing them to integrate into that world and thrive is a huge goal for us as a school. And then lastly, for my vision, you know, my vision and my tie to this neighborhood is very deep. So my vision is to make us into the best neighborhood comprehensive high school in DC. And I know a lot of folks here are thinking about middle school, and as they do, they're also thinking about Eastern. So that's why I'm really just glad to be here with you tonight, hear what your desires are and what you're looking for in your child's education, both through the middle school and the high school years. So thank you.
Great. Thanks everyone for that. A few of you mentioned it a lot already as you talked about sort of your vision and what your school is focused on, but would love to like hone in a little bit about if you can describe how your school prepares students for high school. What about sort of the programming, the academics and rigor is preparing any student that comes for a successful high school transition and experience. I also don't forget folks and our family members and parents, feel free to use the chat to drop any questions or comments as well. And I am going to, I'll start with Principal Magrino again.
All right. Well, as I mentioned, we're an international baccalaureate school. So that is a foundation that is preparing students for high school and beyond. Especially our program connects to Eastern's program. So they do the first 3 years of the middle years program at Eliot Hine. They can extend into the second 2 years of the middle years program at Eastern, and then the diploma program, which I will not steal any thunder from Eastern, is the last part of that. But so it really takes kids all the way through. And what that means is that there's rigorous academics. Teachers are planning around like concepts and contexts and connecting different ideas in different subject areas so that students are really like holistically learning. And I think more and more every year we get a little bit deeper into that. They also have like all of our 8th graders do a community project for International Baccalaureate program, which everybody all over the world who's in IB does in 8th grade. It's a project that starts in October, and kids find a community, figure out a need, they research it, they actually put that, like whatever their solution is in place, and then they do a whole reflection process and formally present in like a TED Talk. We call them Eric Talks because of our eagle. So just that alone kind of, I think, provides an example of what we're doing to prepare kids for high school and beyond, because they're learning the executive functioning skills and you know, everything that goes along with how you need to be able to prepare yourself. But we've also really listened to families. We've added in layers of executive functioning classes. So our 6th graders are taking that this year. We have lots of arts classes for students who are interested in arts programs. And we've learned more about all the different schools and like what students might need if they want to go into you know, a specific program. And I think the last thing I would say is our math pathways. So we have math pathways for all different students at all different levels. And next year we will either offer or be co-enrolling with Eastern. We will have 8th graders in geometry. So it's very exciting. This year we have a cohort of 7th graders already in algebra, and they'll move into geometry. So I don't think that's for every student, and I'm not a principal who pushes that on everybody. But it's great to offer for the students who are ready and excited about it.
Great. Maybe we'll go in similar order. Principal Fraser.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, hopefully what people hear on the call tonight is that you hear a lot of the same things at the middle schools, because a lot of this is us tapping into like what DCPS does as a system, which I think is great. And there are like minor changes school to school. Like we're not an IB school, But we do send quite a few students to Eastern every year, and I know that some students matriculate into the IB program and into the specialized programs there anyway, which is really wonderful for us and for them. We offer 2 courses for high school credit right now. Students have the opportunity to take algebra while they're with us. Last year, I think we had 50 or 60 students who took algebra in 8th grade, so almost a third of the 8th grade was enrolled in an algebra course. And students also get 2 full years of Spanish, which makes them eligible for start high school with a Spanish credit on their transcript, which, as high school parents on the call will know, that just opens up other opportunities for you in other electives or to accelerate in other spaces if you already have some things coming into high school with you as a 9th grader. Like a lot of the other middle schools, we have students who enter in a very diverse spaces as learners. So some of our courses, like our intervention and acceleration courses, are designed to catch some students up to grade level, or while we have other support classes that are designed to help students accelerate past grade level. So those students who ultimately end up in algebra might find themselves in a term or semester of math acceleration or intervention as an elective. As far as prep for high school, I think we also do more technical support for families. So we host a high school fair at our school. We do mock interview nights where community members and parents come and they act as interviewers to simulate the high school application process where students would be interviewed. Our counseling team, we have 2 guidance counselors. They organize visits to high schools where our students have gone historically. We also invite schools in. So Eastern probably comes to Stuart Hobson twice a year. And they bring everybody with them and show off. And then we'll do panels with students who are alums of Stuart Hobson, but who have matriculated into DCPS high schools, and we'll have them come back and talk to students and families as well. So I think all those things are course prep and then just technical support for students and families to get them ready for 9th grade and on.
Move over to Principal Adjunct.
Okay, am I unmuted? I am. So I think with getting our kids ready for high school, because everyone always has a question mark, will a Montessori student be prepared for the rigors of a high school? And the answer is yes. We ensure that we start off with basics of the scheduling. We start off with the block scheduling to get them into the habit of being in certain classes for extended periods of time, where they're able to do research and do independent study, giving them the autonomy to do independent study based on topics that they're interested in within the core DC public school requirements. We also work to develop in them the habits of mind and the dispositions that help them to be successful when they matriculate into higher education, knowing how to navigate and talk to your teacher to get the extra help that you need or to be challenged. And this year, we also partnered with the Johns Hopkins Center for Talented Youth for students who need that additional rigor and push. We've made time within our day for, I can think of at least one student to do additional academic coursework. We also make sure that our kids are always participating in external opportunities where they engage with kids that are moving in that direction, making sure that they're participating in the STEM fairs. We'll be participating also in upcoming math competition sponsored by School Without Walls. So not just the core DCPS curriculum, also focusing on project-based learning, helping them to develop the independence to be able to study and know when to play and know when it's time to prioritize. You have 3 projects coming up. How are you going to organize your time? So giving them the content, but also giving them the basic skills that a lot of kids don't necessarily have by the time they get to high school. They don't know how to do time management. They don't know how to prioritize. Do I get this paper done, or do I study for that quiz or for that test? So infusing the academics is great, but we want to make sure that they are prepared to be able to handle all the challenging classes. And so we do the block scheduling, but on Fridays, they see all of their teachers where they can do unfinished work, and then they can also prepare for the upcoming week. And there was one more thing I was going to say. It just left me like a birdie. Maybe it'll come back later. But essentially, we really want students to understand that their future is in their hands. And these are the opportunities that you have to go deeper on topics of interest. But at the same time, these are the clear benchmarks that you need to get into an application high school or the school of your choice. So it's just an ongoing, algebra. Everyone has access to algebra as 8th graders.
Great, thank you. Principal Howard?
Much of what I would say has already been said, but we do have, so making sure our 8th graders are in algebra. We have several 7th graders who are currently in algebra, so they'll be taking geometry next year. We have a goal, our 6th grade students who are currently in 6th grade, the goal will be to have about 30% of them taking algebra in 8th grade. So really pushing that and then continuing to grow that to the point where algebra becomes the 8th grade math. And so even for students who are on the cusp of being algebra ready for next year, being able to take 8th grade math and algebra simultaneously to be able to hit some of those key standards that they would have missed in 8th grade. We're also looking to extend our accelerated program. So we do a lot, particularly for our students with disabilities or students who have IEPs. And next year, the focus is really going to shift a lot more to focusing on students who are at or above grade level and how we really propel them forward for the rigors of high school. Similar to Principal Frazier, doing a lot of the technical support. We have one counselor, and she works a lot with our 8th grade students on preparing them for the high school application process, as well as a lot of the executive functioning skills that need to happen in order to set them up for success. Our teachers offer tutoring all the time during the day, in the morning, and after school, just to make sure our students are adequately prepared for what comes next. Additionally, we have all of the sports. And so as a part of having sports programming, students also have to have a study block with sports. So making sure that they have time built in to get homework done, work on missing assignments, as well as, have the fun that they wish to have. We've more recently had high school volunteers. So some of the high school volunteers previously attended Jefferson. They are there during the school day, interfacing with students. We currently offer a few accelerated programs through social studies. And so this year we had some challenges as it related to our elective programming to prepare them for band and art. So what we're doing this year is getting started early on hiring to make sure that we get the most qualified candidates to be able to expose our students to some of those programs for next year. Again, similar to what's already been stated, students will have an opportunity to earn a high school credit in Spanish so that when they get to high school, they already have that under their belt as well.
Great, thank you. And so for you, Principal Miller, obviously you're not necessarily preparing kids for high school, but post-secondary, what's after high school? What do you all think about that at Eastern?
Yeah, thank you. So we're very fortunate to be a school that's growing pretty quickly. So we've been able to add a lot in the area of college and career readiness over the last few years. The first and foremost, marquee program that we have is the Principal Magrino already mentioned, is the IB program. We have both the middle years program and the diploma program. We're the only DCPS school that offers, but actually only DC school that offers both of those. We do offer a few AP courses as well, but if you're a full IB diploma program student, that would be the equivalent of taking 7 APs each of your junior and senior year. So that doesn't leave a lot of room for AP, but we do offer it a few courses at the sophomore level. Another thing we do for our college preparation is offer dual enrollment. We are piloting a program this year where we partnered with the Wharton Business School, Pennsylvania, and then Arizona State University to offer their courses in our school during the school day. So in addition to all the great dual enrollment offerings that DC offers, any DCPS school, you can go take courses at GW and take courses at Trinity and Catholic and a few other schools here in DC. Here at Eastern, we offer a few more than that, and you don't have to travel. You can do it right in your schedule during the school day at Eastern, and it's been a hit this year, so we're definitely going to continue that. forward as well. So that's the kind of our marquee college prep programs. We also do a lot with career preparation as well. We offer we have a health sciences academy. Many of our students do go on to college from that program. However, it also certifies our students by the time they graduate as they're certified as EMTs. So they can go right into the workforce the day after graduation with that certification. The same thing with our IT Academy. So we just added an IT Academy this year as part of our expansion as our enrollment continues to grow. And that really enables our students to graduate with 2 to 3 industry level certifications in networking and other areas. So they are able to go right into the workforce if they wish. And we also do a lot of internships as well in that junior and senior years for the students who are interested in various programs. So we very much focus on the college and career piece. We also have a big focus on getting involved at Eastern. We really want to build our connections with students. As you can tell from the amount of principals on this call, who are all feeder schools, we have 5 feeder schools that go into Eastern. So we got to bring all those students together and really make them feel welcome, develop deep connections, both with our staff, but also amongst themselves. So we do a lot on the activities side. We have a tremendous amount of offerings on the activities that are, and it's growing every month or two. We're adding new activities as we get bigger as a school, and the same with the athletics. But again, the focus is not just that they get involved and get to know each other and build community, but also develop, as I mentioned before, as the whole child. So this is my puppy who cannot no longer sit still after 3 hours of meetings tonight. But you know, that's really our piece is develop the whole person, get them ready for what awaits them when they're 18, whether they're headed as our last valedictorian, whether they're headed to Ivy League at Columbia, or whether they're headed to the Fire Academy or something else. We just want them to be prepared, ready to thrive by the time they leave Eastern.
Thanks. Something that sort of resonates that you all have mentioned and some sort of alluded to is essentially meeting the students where they're at and be able to sort of understand that every student comes with different needs and experiences. So would love to sort of have, if you haven't already sort of mentioned it, talk a little bit about how you support or help students that may be below grade level. They may need a little bit of extra support. At the same time, what are those opportunities for students that are ready to like excel, that are sort of beyond that or above grade level and are sort of looking for something a little bit more challenging? So yeah, would love to hear a little bit more about how you all do that and support each student sort of across that spectrum. I'll go in the same order and keep it easy.
I'll answer one more before I have to jump off, and Ms. Giles, feel free to jump in if I'm forgetting anything. So I think this is something we've really worked on over the years, because our student population has doubled in the last 6 years that I've been here. And so we just keep continuing to get a wider range of students and where they're at in terms of proficiency when they enter. So as I mentioned, we've created math pathways just so that students can end up wherever they need to be. But for 6th grade next year, we are breaking our classes down into class sizes with teacher ratios of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 at max, hopefully, assuming enrollment plays out the way we're expecting. So our goal is to have all students and all 6th graders do accelerated math, but they'll be able to kind of do it at the pace with their groups, their smaller classes. So our goal is to get all students as close as possible to grade level in 6th grade so that they can choose their pathway when they get to 7th and 8th. We have things like 2 world languages that students can take for students who are excelling. We have, lots of arts and other enrichment. We have book clubs and battle of the books, like different ways. We have a great debate team. So I think those are all things that really a lot of our students who want further enrichment get involved in. And also just within our classes, we use something called SOAR time, which is student-owned acceleration and reflection. And so they're small groups where learning is really targeted to each of the groups, and they get kind of personalized time with teachers. So that helps both students who are excelling and also students who need more supports. And then to go deeper on the support side, we have high impact tutoring that we do. So like real small, high dose tutoring for students who need a lot of supports in a particular subject area that we can target. We have our teachers do tutoring, formal tutoring after school, like with formal tutoring programs, but also like during lunch, et cetera. They're always open and kids are up there all the time working with them. We have, resource classes, inclusion classes, co-teachers, as all the schools will be able to say, because these are all services that we provide for students who may receive specialized services through special education, but that also benefits other students who may not be identified to receive special education services. And then we have a full range of reading support as well, from emergent readers who are just really still in the reading acquisition phase all the way through to get kids up to reading at a proficient grade level with their comprehension. So I think we have a wide range. I think that I answered those questions on both ends. Giles, is there anything that I left out that you want to throw in as I hand the baton over?
No, I think you did a great job. I think that you really spoke to just in growing as a school, and where we want to ensure that we are meeting the needs of all of our children, and really honing in on what the data says and making sure that we're responding to what the data says, so that our sixth graders, because of COVID and because of the transition from COVID, we're finding that there are so many learning gaps with basic skills that they should have gotten in second and third grade, which is why we made the decision to go to these smaller groups of students for sixth graders, so that we can help them build up those prior skills, because we only anticipate that same challenge continuing post-COVID. So we're working on that, but really being responsive to the needs of what the kids, and not just what we think, but what the data says.
I'm hopping off, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you, Principal Marina.
Thank you.
Principal Frazier?
Sure. So we do a lot of screening, like a lot of the other schools probably do, just to try to figure out where students are when they start with us every school year. So we use grades from the prior school or school year, and then we do the DCPS battery of assessments like iReady, MAP, and reading inventory. And we use that information to make decisions with families. So one thing I like to be really clear about is like we will always try to share with the family like everything we know about their student, but we are not gatekeepers. So we are not going to be the final, yes or no on placement in a course. But we do try to share all the information that we have with families so we can make decisions with them, because middle school is a time where families often want to strategically push their child, and it's not necessarily in every course all of the time, or in every activity. So we try to work with families to figure out where we want to push and take, a more challenging course like algebra, or, like the next level up in math, or where students might need intervention to accelerate to grade level. So we offer Read 180 and System 44, which are reading intervention programs standalone for students who are multiple grade levels below in literacy. We have standalone math intervention classes that take place during elective time. All students have access to platforms called Reading Plus and Zern, where they're supposed to do 4 and 3 lessons a week, respectively. And if they do those lessons with mastery, there's supposed to be a correlation with improvement on other standardized tests that they take, like previously PARCC, now DC CAPE. We also have a robust after-school tutoring program. We have undergraduate students who come from George Washington University to tutor our students in 1-on-1, 2-on-1, and 3-on-1 groups in math specifically. And that's free to families. We have our after-school All-Stars partnership, which is 3:30 to 6 o'clock for 80 families who sign up for it. So there's some enrichment and support that happens there. And we also have literacy challenges for students who are reading at or above grade level. So we have one that's popular, is called the 40 Book Challenge, where we challenge students to read 40 books in the school year across different genres. And the librarian and the teachers engage the students in book talks to help them track their progress towards that goal. And the last thing I think, like Principal Magrino shared, some of our electives, or sorry, extracurricular activities reinforce what happens in school. So we have a debate team that won a national championship a couple years ago. They're sending multiple students to nationals again this year. We have mock trial for the second year in a row. We do National History Day and Science Fair. And since this is a Ward 6 call, I'm going to humbly brag that we are very proud that in NHD, we clean up at the citywide awards, and we're often besting the students from that school up in Northwest who we're always trying to compete with. So we're really proud of our students when it comes to NHD and our ability to show deal up at something for a change. So yeah, those are just the ways that we support and try to accelerate kids.
Great, thanks. Principal Adeju?
In addition to all of the wonderful things that our friends have already said, we know that DCPS has a intervention system called multi-tiered system of supports. And so there's always the opportunity for all the teachers that have a touch point to do a referral of support, very specific, very targeted. And there's a MTSS leadership team, and they meet and determine the course of action with parental input. So our aim is to have 98% of our parents as a part of that MTSS meeting, so that the way forward to recover, to have the student recover and get to grade level and beyond, it's with full parent involvement and knowledge of knowing how to support. This year, we've modified our study hall to now be a double dose time, where, for example, our math teacher, let's say she sees 7th grade for this traditional instructional time, we've infused 2 additional 120-minute blocks where students that are struggling, she can see them without also having competing priorities. And within that study hall also, the reading interventionists can also pull groups out to do like your System 44, to work on Lexia Power Up, which is the middle school version, and any other intervention that needs to happen, it's embedded within the day, and it doesn't compete with the core content areas. And we also do after school tutoring, but we also do after school clubs that are acceleration opportunities for students that are already there and doing well. It gives them some time after school to to work directly with a core content teacher to continue to grow in that area. And then from the additional leadership standpoint, across DCPS, we partner with Relay Graduate School, and we've been doing what we call weekly data meetings, and now we've moved into weekly planning meetings, so that we're not just throwing a noodle on the wall and hoping that it sticks, that we are actually looking at student work, and we're looking to figure out where the conceptual and procedural gaps in students' understanding is, and helping teachers craft a reteach plan that will not just be them giving them the same information over and over again and they're not reaching the goal. So in order for us to fill in that COVID gap, that although we think it's over and done with, we're really, really seeing the fallout even a few years later. So we're realizing that everything that we do for students, especially those who are not quite there yet, has to be grounded in specific needs-based small group instruction, so that when they're meeting with the teacher, they are not getting random instruction. It's targeted to move them forward. And even in the small groups, that is also an opportunity to accelerate kids that are there, to keep them engaged and for them to not be discouraged and disengaged because they're not getting the same level of intense support to continue to grow. So it really is just a wraparound of recognizing where students are through really interrogating our data and our instructional practices to ensure that what we're doing is meeting every child where they are.
Thank you. Principal Howard?
So again, echoing many of the resources both for acceleration as well as intervention that my colleagues have shared. Something we moved to because we had some schedule shifts this year was to incorporate what we call flexible Fridays. And so on Fridays, our students actually have the opportunity to opt into a club. Some students are taking coding, some students are doing makerspace, some students actually opted into doing literature circles and doing more reading, and they get to do it across grade level so that if we have 6th graders who are doing a reading club with the 8th grade teacher, they're having an opportunity to interface with different teachers and different students across the building, really to build up that social capital that is really important in middle school. Principal Adetung mentioned MTSS. One of the things we're really focusing on this year is sense of belonging, because we know if kids don't come to school, if they don't like being in school, then they're not going to learn, whether it is to accelerate them or push them even further than they already are. And so we've been really looking at our students who come to school and have a high sense of belonging or a low sense of belonging and how we can push them academically. We're looking to expand some of our partnerships. We have a few partners who come in after school. We have a debate team. We have some community-based partnerships that are helping with tutoring as well as some additional mentoring. And then next year, what we are pushing out is what we call a What I Need, so a WIN block, where we'll be able to have a lot more small group intervention and acceleration based on the data that comes out of the end of year testing as well as DC CAPE, and then our beginning of year testing. So students will be in small groups with teachers to really accelerate their learning, even if they are behind academically. And we also plan to have more clubs during the school day next year, similar to what we have now. In the next few weeks, we'll be rolling out a more intentional HIT programming for our students, just to really push them further, faster in a smaller group setting.
Great, thanks. And Principal Miller.
Yeah, thank you. That's an important question. So we have at the high school level, we have kids coming in from so many different areas and levels of skill and expertise. So getting after that is really, really important. So on the support side, we offer more special education supports than just about any DCPS high school. That's something that we strive to do, and we do really, really well. We also, as Principal Lujan mentioned, the MTSS process and responding to students throughout the year for different needs is critical to us as well. But one of the biggest things that we're able to do that kind of supports and accelerates at the same time is we use what's called a modern classrooms approach as kind of the base of our instructional approach to complement our IB curriculum. So the modern classrooms is really about transitioning the teacher from, instead of the giver of information, to more of the facilitator of learning. And this is something my middle school colleagues know very, very well. And high school, it's still, if you look in high school classrooms across the city, you'll still see a lot of time of the teacher up front telling kids what to do and what to know. And so we're transitioning that to something that's much more targeted and much more focused on meeting kids where they're at, whether they're at a very high level above grade level or whether they're below grade level and they need targeted support. So the modern classroom approach really in both individualizes the instruction and then also creates a lot of targeted small group opportunities as well. So within every classroom, whether it's an IB, AP classroom, or whether it's one of our special education classrooms where students need a lot of support and scaffolds, they are getting that through that kind of modern classroom approach. So that's big for us. It really helps us differentiate and meet the needs of all of our kids. And then the last thing I'll say is, as my dog is going crazy here, is that in addition to the deep connections that we have with our students, and we're really focused on that sense of belonging that I know Principal Howard mentioned, we try to use that to leverage that into getting kids to participate in things like Power Hour and our study halls and our other academics and, our athletics and activities. And our coaches Like our esports is a great example. We have 60 kids involved in a great esports team, but you're not allowed to start practice unless you have turned in all of your work and your GPA is at a certain level. So they're very focused on supporting the students, leveraging those relationships that they have with the kids to get them the supports that they need while we're differentiating throughout the classroom.
Great, thanks. I'm going to shift a little bit. We talked a lot about sort of the academic programming and supports, which is fabulous to hear from all of you. We also know it's equally important is social emotional support for students, particularly at this age timeframe, with 2 middle schoolers, both going through puberty, lots of emotions, lots of development, lots of things happening inside and outside the classroom. And it can be a hard time for these growing kids. Can you talk a little bit about sort of the social, not only sort of what they're going through, but also what's happening in the world, COVID. I mean, there's a lot happening in the world, in our city around us. And our kids are sort of absorbing all of that and trying to process all of that. And so would love to just hear how you each support students from a social and emotional perspective with all of these range of things that are happening. And we're going to start with AP Giles.
You know, I'm sitting here and getting my thoughts together to make sure that I am clear and say as much as Marlene would, because sometimes I will just give you a quick and easy, and you won't get an idea of what we're doing at Eliot Hine. So I'll start with, we have social workers for every grade level. So there's a social worker for 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade, and these social workers actually follow the students through. So the social worker they get at 6th grade will be with them 6th, 7th, and 8th. So this person will really get to know who these children are, what the needs are, who the families are, and really be able to connect with the students. We also have a behavior tech who's assigned to each grade level as well. So that's another person who's constantly there to have relationships with students, with families, to know the students. And the behavior techs don't move with the students, but they are there to support the kids. So those are 2 like really technical pieces. I'm the 6th grade assistant principal. And so my responsibility is to help our children transition from our children and families transition from elementary school to middle school. But as Marlene said, is we believe that middle school is an opportunity for kids to really explore. Middle school is also an opportunity for kids to make lots of mistakes in a very safe space. And so our approach to discipline in our school is to allow children the opportunity to reflect on their behavior, to create different solutions, to restore relationships with adults and with children and with the community. And we also have to walk parents through that transition too, because the middle school kids are changing in ways that we're not always prepared for. And sometimes parents have a hard time with those changes, but we've been there for a long time with these kids. And we can say, no, Mom, this is absolutely normal. Dad, this is normal. We are supporting your kid through it. And this is where they are. This is what they have to go through at this time. So being a middle school educator, that's another thing that we're very aware of. And this is what we also support our teachers in understanding and staff and how to support our kids through social emotional. But we also have plenty of clubs. We have created, when we first got there, we had very few sport activities. I think we now offer 27 sport activities for students to have relationships and connections to the school. We have a musical theater program now. We have band, we have choir, we have the Eliot Hine Network, which is a broadcasting system in our school. We have lots of after-school activities for students to connect to the adults and to peers in the building. We do anything to drive school spirit, to make kids connected. I think we've had 3 pajama days this year, just to figure out ways to bring joy and things that the kids actually enjoy doing. But post-COVID and having kids connect, our biggest concern has been attendance. It was on the news today, and getting families back in. And so figuring out how to be creative and making the school a welcoming and supportive space. We have a school pantry that's open, the Eagle Mart. If you want to, you can come shop at our Eagle Mart. It provides groceries to families. But we are always looking at what the kids need and stepping back. Oh, we have our inquiry and exploration, which is like a club, clubs throughout the day for our students. But we're doing our best, and we're always looking at ways to connect with our families, connect with our kids, and provide them the supports that they need.
Thank you. Principal Frazier?
I think you did better than Principal Magrino. So much more detail. I'll let her know that too. So many like of the same things. I guess I'll highlight a couple of additional things. So we also have like a suite of social workers, guidance counselors, behavior techs, deans of students who are all, staffed in order to support students outside of the classroom to make sure that they are feeling well and safe and ready to go into class and learn, and to support them when they're not. We do a lot of proactive and reactive learning. So the proactive learning typically happens in advisory classes and science classes, or in health and PE classes, where we engage with lessons on all kinds of content that are about social issues that students will likely have to navigate while they're in school. So online safety, cybersecurity, bullying prevention, gender identity, racism, religion, all the things that they will talk about, whether or not we are present at the cafeteria table. We are trying to arm them with the language that makes those conversations safe and productive for them so that they can leverage their curiosity about the world and about each other, and explore, different cultures and differences and do that in a way that is safe. So a lot of that proactive learning is designed to help them in that socialization that they do. And also, each class is different. So we will make observations about patterns in what they are fixating on kind of as a grade level or as a school community. And sometimes they need some extra lessons from us about whatever topic du jour it is that they're hyper focused on. And I think coming out of the pandemic, like a lot of my colleagues on this call, like the amount of things that we needed to provide them support with was overwhelming for us as educators. And, on top of that, I think most of us were strapped for staff in that first year back. So the students just had a lot to learn, and our schools had a lot of culture to rebuild. I know I've talked to my colleagues on this call, and I think we're all feeling like we're in a much better place this year than we were 2.5 years ago when we welcome students back in person, because the students who are in our 7th and 8th grades have rebuilt and reestablished a culture that they're teaching to the 6th graders. So we're really proud and grateful for that. The only other things we do, we have Spirit Weeks, like we just had Black History Month Spirit Week. We'll do a fall and spring Spirit Week to give students something to get excited about. And then we have almost monthly pep assemblies where the grade levels compete against each other in the gym through a series of physical competitions. And that helps them build community as a grade level. And it's also just a raucous good time for us, one Friday a month down in the gym.
Great. Principal Aduchum?
Wow. So with us having 11 grade levels and the way we're funded and staffed, we don't have the luxury of a social worker for every grade level. That sounds amazing. So our approach to supporting kids, we start very big and then we go small. We start macro, then we go micro. So we're ensuring that every morning, every security guard is meeting and greeting students as they come through the door. So you can kind of get ahead of who needs to now move and get a check-in with the social worker or a check-in with the school psychologist. And then they move into a big, what we call the middle school common, where they're able to have socialization and we're able to observe as the adults on duty who's interacting with whom, who is looking like they're withdrawn. So that's the big level observation. And then we are then able to kind of hone in and check in with students that are not seeming typical. And then when they move into their homeroom time, I did a big investment in Big Life Journals. And what Big Life Journals are, it introduces topics on agency, resilience, growth mindsets. It has It usually has like little writing prompts, little stories, but then it also gives students the opportunity to listen to their inner voice and to give words to the inner voice. And so that they're journaling, and then they're selecting a topic with their homeroom teachers to start their day, to kind of fill their tank at the start. And that's also a time when a homeroom teacher will say, oh, I'm noticing that one particular student is externalizing way too much, or one particular person is really, really withdrawn. And then that's when we start the referral system. So for those students to be able to get the supports, because we know a calm brain is needed, a calm heart is needed for any instructional success to happen in that day. And so because we don't have a plethora of teammates, of team members to address each child, we really depend on the staff really paying attention. And then the kids that are most silent, or the ones that are externalizing the most, are the first to get the attention. And the Big Life Journals have really been a really, really powerful way for the students who wouldn't normally have a voice to develop a voice. And we've continued with our monthly town halls that are student-led. And during those monthly town halls, they're able to bring up any topic of discussion. Why can't we have our cell phones while we're in class? Why don't we have more field trips? PA, why do you do too much all the time? Like, nothing's off limits. They get to ask questions and we respond. And then it's also a time for them to shout one another out what they've noticed that they're doing well in. And each of the homeroom teachers also have the opportunity to congratulate students who are really improving, those who are really stepping up. So those are some of the ways. And of course, we have external partners where if a student needs like intense counseling, because schools are not clinical settings or therapeutic settings, as much as we want to believe that we're not. And so a lot of times we have to refer students and their families out to maybe a DBH resource or some other facility that can provide individual and family and group therapies. And then those clinicians then connect with our clinicians so that we can be duplicating what they're getting outside, and as much as possible practice it in the school with our clinicians. It's a big job, really helping our kids adjust to the ever-changing world that they're living in, and it's very scary for them. And we work really hard to ensure that they have the opportunity to visit my office anytime. Like mental health team, they have an open door policy. I make sure that all the QR codes that kids can do self-referrals are all over the building. So if they don't want to come and say, I need help, they can do a private referral. And so those are just some of the ways that we help our students to get adjusted.
Great. Principal Howard?
I'm not going to actually do a lot of talking. I'm going to turn it over to, I have 2 students for sure who are on the call to share their experience about how they feel like they're being supported at the school. But similar to Principal Frazier, we have a social worker per grade level. We have some outside supports as well. I have both Zori on the call as well as Brooklyn. So I would like them to speak to their experience around how they feel like they get supported from social and emotional level.
Love it. I see Brooklyn on the screen. I don't know if you want to start, Brooklyn, before that work.
Hi, my name is Brooklyn, and ways that I feel supported at the school is just like we have different counselors at the school that we can have a check-in with. All we have to do is like ask our teachers for a pass, and they text the social worker to see if they're available, and we can go in and have check-ins. We could also like do work in their space if we don't like want to be in class. And we also have buddy classes where we can go to other classrooms to settle down if we're having like a hard time in our class. So it's just like many opportunities to like we have a lot of people at our school that we can talk to and have check-ins with. So
Thanks for sharing that, Brooklyn.
And
And
then, yeah,
Zoe?
Zori.
Sorry.
Hi, my name is Zori, and some ways that we can feel supported is we can express to our teachers, especially our dance teacher and math teacher, Miss Nero. She always has these check-ins where we can check our mood, and she says put up a personal 3 if we have an issue, and we could talk to her about it, or we could talk to our assistant principal, Mr. Miller, who always takes us for surveys and checks up on us and let us know that we belong, and our dance teacher, who will support us no matter what, as he lets us know. And yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I love it. We're gonna, Principal Miller, give you 1 minute to sort of respond to that, and then I'm gonna have one more question, and then we actually do have a few other parents and folks on the call that we want to make sure have time to also speak from their experience. So go ahead.
Yeah, I'll keep it short. So you know, I'm grateful for my middle school experience, because as you can hear, like the middle schools do a tremendous job with SEL. High schools, it's not been as much of a focus until COVID hit, and then we all realized it is very, very, very important. And one of our biggest strategies is kind of what you heard from the two students, which is that they have their person, right? They have their people that they go to and they can check in with. So we make sure that they have that at Eastern. We have a couple systems built in place to where we're consistently polling kids every week. Would you like to talk to somebody? So if they're an introvert and they're not comfortable, like just going to see somebody, we can kind of pull that out of them to find supports. We're also really blessed with a lot of community partners. So, you know, Principal Dutram talked about the difficulty of having clinical supports in the school. But we are blessed with having that through our community partners. We have full-time counselor who is just there for therapy. We have 5 social workers. We have 2 school psychologists. We have a lot of folks who are there, including, and I added it this year, a SEL counselor. So a counselor who's literally just focused on the SEL development of our students. And it's enabled us to do a lot for our kids and give them a lot of supports, and which is what they need right now coming out of COVID. Our last class that experienced that in high school is our senior class. So it's still very much affecting our kids, and the kids who missed a year of middle school coming up, they missed a lot of social emotional development as well. So it's important to us.
So you each talked a lot about supporting and creating a supporting and welcoming environment for students and families and communities. I had a parent question sent to me in the chat that I want to ask folks about how you support students and your school community on issues of gender identity and sexual orientation. That was from a parent on the call. So I'd love to give folks an opportunity to talk specifically to that. And I'm going to start with AP Jazz.
Man, that is such an important topic, that educating the community, educating the children, educating the staff on what that means, affirming students' gender identity, and ensuring that we're respecting the wishes and the needs of the children, creating spaces at our school that are safe for kids. We call it a rainbow book club, so that students can go to the library and have really just a space to meet, to be with peers that they want to be with, or to have a support group. Again, it's middle school, so it's also educating parents on what their children have expressed and what their children need. Ensuring that we are respecting students' pronouns. And we have several students who have dead names and they have new names. And those dead names, we're working to get even our rosters renamed, so that these students are never called by names that do not affirm who they are. But we are ever striving to make an inclusive space for all of our kids, gender affirming, students who have autism, students who have Tourette's, students who are different colors, different ethnic backgrounds, just different. They come with different traditions, different religions. And so I think that is one piece of so many spaces where we have to be inclusive and respect where people are, and be willing to learn and to change and apologize and to affirm.
I love that. Thank you. Principal Frazier?
Yeah, I think, and I can try to be quick too, because I know we had other questions. I think DCPS has a very, thankfully, right, like as an educator, DCPS as an organization has a very inclusive stance and kind of attitude about identity in general. So I think it's, it is very much similar to Eliot Hine. Like, we believe that it's our job to make sure that that their identity is affirmed, whatever it is. I mean, whether it's gender and sexuality or anything else about how they identify, we really believe that it's our job as a school to affirm that for them, and to help them find spaces where it will be affirmed, reinforced positively with peers and also with all of the adults in the building. We also believe that through, as I mentioned during like advisory, that we provide students with the safest language and the appropriate language so that they can do what they're naturally going to do, which is explore and talk about those different facets of their identity, so that they can do that safely, not just to get to themselves, but also to get to know their peers who might be different from them across, any line of identity. So specific to gender and sexuality, we have a gay straight alliance in our school called Panther Pride. It's an all-inclusive group that meets after school. It's drop-in. There are also students who come regularly, and it's open to all students. So that's a place for students to connect with one of our staff advisors, but also to identify allies in the building, specifically when it comes to sexuality and gender. Yeah, and I think that's the only thing I'd add to what Eliot Hine, was talking about doing it in their community.
Great. Principal Adechu?
So we started off our PD week this year with a full staff training on how to support students across the spectrum, so that in the event they come across anything that looks like exclusivity, that they're able to address it with the students in real time, and then also giving staff the words how to respond to and support any student that expresses any concerns in regards to sex, gender, and any of those others. Because I think a lot of times when staff members don't know how to respond in time, it can either escalate something that really doesn't need to escalate. And then for students to also understand that they do have a safe space and they do have people that they can go to and talk to about anything that may crop up that feels uncomfortable, or that they feel like they're not being heard, that they have a voice and they have support throughout the building. And I have an open door policy. Any student who feels like they're not being treated fairly, we have a conversation and we figure out how to ensure that everyone feels safe and included.
Amazing. Principal Howard?
Yeah, echoing some of what's already been said, we also have a partnership with Smile, which comes into the school, meets with groups of students. I think the first thing is just affirming representation across our staff, right? Making sure our staff can show up and be who they truly are in order to be possibility models for some of our students who may be struggling or need someone to affirm their identity, particularly an adult that they trust to affirm their identity. Using language is very important. Humans, right? Naming, like that we're saying, like gender identity matters at our school, and really holding true. My door is literally always open. I tell students that all the time. I tell adults that all the time. It literally does not get locked. So they know that if they want to come and have a conversation about anything, that they can. I have a student who comes to me at least once a week to ask me to schedule a meeting so that we can discuss things. One of our special education students, and he is very adamant about meeting weekly. So really just having that open door policy and making sure that students are heard. I think another thing is like respecting students' privacy is also really important. Not outing them to family members or whomever else, and just being very clear with what those boundaries look like from an adult and student standpoint.
Thank you for that. I'm going to turn it actually over, just so I want to make sure that we give an opportunity for the parents and some of the students that are on the call to share a little bit about their experience. So I know of 3 different parents that are on the call. I think Tahira Finley from Jefferson, Jean Kohenick from Eliot Hine, and Catherine Lix-Rice from Stuart Hobson. I know we have Brooklyn, we have, oh my gosh, I want to say the other Jefferson student who's, I see you in the little box with Tahira. Corey.
Zori.
Sorry, thank you. So I don't know if we have any other students here, but let's, I would love if you all would be willing and able to just talk a little bit from the parent perspective on your experience at your school and sort of knowing what parents are thinking about. What do you think is, what do you want to share to other parents who are trying to figure out what the middle school option is for them and their families? Who's would love to start?
I could start if you like. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. My name is Jean and my son is at Eliot Hine, and he's been there for 3 years. And I think for most of us, we have that trepidation because we remember our own middle school experience and how stressful that time can be. You couldn't pay me to do 13 again. But I can say that my son had a very different experience and a really positive experience. And I think the school has done a great job. And I think it sounds like I'm listening to all these principals talk about, it's just so much more student-centered now, the experience, and really recognizing that it's a tough time and your brain is exploding at that age in all sorts of good and challenging ways. And it's really helped me, the school has helped me step back as a parent because they really are working on building those executive function strategies with students, so they can learn how to manage their homework, manage their time, doing all those things, allowing room for mistakes, and, really coaching us as parents to kind of take a step back and let them lead. So I very much appreciate that. And I appreciate how everybody in the building knows my kid. And he's not someone who's necessarily looking for attention, but I know that it makes me feel better to know that he's got all eyes are on him because it's a small school and that allows for that. So, and because staff make a point of doing that. So I think those are probably my big points to say, but I'm open to questions too, if anybody has any.
Thanks, Jean. Any of the other two would like to share next? Tahira or Catherine?
Yeah, I can share. I am Tahira. I'm Zori's mom. I'm biased because I'm a Jefferson graduate myself. Yes. I actually have been a Ward 6 resident almost all my life, even to the point I came back to DC just to make sure that my kids go to school here. So Jefferson, under the leadership we had in my years, was the same as almost a little like phenomenal even now. I don't try to be inclusive with Zori's learning, but her teachers, principals, all of her principals, including those that are not her assistant principals, are very active in keeping me in the know, even though she's independent enough. I feel like I don't ever have to ask a question and get pointed into a whirlwind of who's going to answer it. It's just a very enlightening experience because from the first day I thought she would be terrified to she absolutely hates missing a day. And how many of us could really say that as a kid? So I'm very happy with her 6th grade experience and so looking forward to all of her years to come.
It's amazing. Thank you, Tahira. Catherine?
Yeah, I'll be happy to share. My son is a sixth grader this year at Stuart Hobson and is a little shy, so he's off doing his homework right now, which is a good thing. But I share Jean's feelings about my middle school experience. Maybe that's because that was, the early 90s and everybody had really bad hair back then. But it was a very different experience, I think, coming in for my son and all of his friends too. I think that was the neatest thing, was seeing particularly the bridge week that the kids get at the beginning of the year before school starts. They really had an opportunity to know the school, know where they were going in, and then also, really having access to all of their teachers as needed. If there's a question, while we have the ability to foster that independence in our students, we're also able to touch base with their teachers as needed. And, I've gotten to the point where I can't take Eamon out early for a doctor's appointment where he's going to miss his last period because he has science and he absolutely adores that class and, doesn't want to miss it for anything. So it's really, and I'm seeing them push the kids appropriately, and even in something like his science class, his teacher is pushing his writing in that class to ensure that he is really hitting his maximum potential. And even though it's not an English class, he is, they really have this overall arching approach to the kids and their education. And I think one of the best things is that Principal Fraser said a little earlier about, giving kids opportunities. One of the things, my son did archery this year, which is something I never thought he would ever do. And, the opportunities to try new things. I think that's the opportunity all of our middle schoolers get to have, no matter where they go here in the DCPS schools, because I think there's a lot of great opportunities for them. So.
Thanks for sharing that, Catherine. Any other parents on the line that want to share their experience that might be currently at any of the schools? All right, well, before we turn it for some last remarks from our school principals, I would love to give an opportunity for Zori and Brooklyn to share a little bit. Just tell me why you love Jefferson. Who wants to go first? Sorry.
I'll go first. So far my experience at Jefferson has been great. I've been excelling in all my classes. I've been getting all A's, and I'm performing above grade level. I really like Jefferson. It's academically challenging, but at the same time, I can have fun. So I feel like this is the school for me.
Yes, I love that. Brooklyn?
I think that Jefferson is like a really great school because like you can have fun, but also you're academically challenged and you're pushing all your classes, and teachers don't allow like excuses or anything. They push all kids the same, and they keep them motivated to do the work. And thank to AP Miller because he like gives us a lot of incentives like if we do good. So we be having a lot of parties and stuff, and Jefferson is really fun. I think it should be a recommended school to a lot of kids because they support you, and they also like make sure you have fun, and also they push your academics.
Love it. Thank you. Any other students who want to share their experience that might be on the call? I know. I see you, Catherine, like trying to convince him. No, I get it. My kid wouldn't either. All right, we are sort of coming down to sort of the last couple minutes. So definitely folks who have not put any questions in the chat or want to send questions directly to me or to Suzanne, who would love principals to sort of follow up on, please don't hesitate to use the chat for that. And I do appreciate everybody's patience as I sort of went through one by one, but I felt it was really important that every principal had the opportunity to sort of share their experience and what they bring to the table, and so that everybody had that chance. And so I'm going to do that one last time. And sort of the final really question for the principals to share with all the parents and families that are on the call is sort of like what makes your school so special? Like, what is it about it that you feel like is why you love it and what parents should really know about your school. And I am going to start with AP Giles. Same order.
That's such a hard question. I mean, I love my school. I've been at Eliot Hine for the past 6 years. Marlene and I came in together. I was the instructional coach. I am extremely proud of the work that we have accomplished. We were acknowledged by the district as a standing ovation school for the work that we have, for the work and the change that we've made in the school. And I will say that what I'm most proud of is the shift in thinking. That, before for myself, it was all about learning. School's about learning. Social emotional counseling, like that's out the door. Social workers, who cares? Like they need to learn. But I think in the process of transforming Eliot Hine, and with Marlene as a leader, really coming to an understanding that this social emotional learning was more important than anything. And I'm really proud that we have a focus on that, and ensuring that students are being attended to and the adults are being attended to. So as Kim said, if they feel safe, if they feel calm, they can learn. And we have created a space that's safe and calm, and children are learning. And I'm really proud of that. And I'm really proud of how teachers have connected and provided opportunities for children at our school. So I'm just really proud. I'm proud. And I'm proud. Listen, I'm a Stuart Hobson grad. My brother, Mr. TC, is at Jefferson. Eliot Hine Eliot was my neighborhood middle school. Eastern was the school I should have attended. I'm very proud to be at Eliot Hine. I lived at 15th and Constitution. Eliot is at 18th and Constitution. So it is my neighborhood. So I'm proud. And I hope that when people join our school, they are equally as proud.
Thank you for that. It speaks volumes when the staff is so proud and believes so much in what the school does. Is so important. Turn it to Principal Frazier.
So thank you again, everybody, for joining us tonight. Just appreciate having the opportunity to meet with everybody and speak, and to field some questions. I think there are so many more things that we all have in common as the middle schools in Ward 6 and as DCPS middle schools. And for me, like those things that we have in common are the things that make us the place to be for kids. So I don't think you can really go wrong with the group of schools that's on this call and the other schools in the ward. I think that to some degree, our extracurriculars in the arts are like a hallmark of some of the work that we do. I'm not going to say that they are like the thing that Stuart Hobson does, but I think that our instrumental music and band programs and our musical theater program are just big. They're just big programs for us. And they're important to the students who are participate in them. Like they're a space to shine that's pretty untraditional. And it's a place where they build community. So those and the staff who sponsor them are major anchors for us. And especially with the programs like band, like I think that gets to like the second reason, that I would offer for why our school is a place to be. Like the other schools here, like we're your ticket to ride to go to Eastern. So like we are, doing this instrumental music program so that students are ready to join the marching band and to join other programs at Eastern. And we would love for every single graduate to matriculate in there. The third reason that you should come to Stuart Hobson is that if Eastern's not it, like we do all this programming to make sure that students keep doors open and open even more doors during middle school for opportunity in high school. So we'd like to think that all of our students can be competitive if they want to go to an application high school in DCPS. But we also are working very hard to set them up for success and to shine at Eastern, and just to keep it in the ward and keep it in the feeder pattern.
Love it. Principal Duchin.
So as the only education campus on the call, I think one of the things that I treasure is that we are a citywide school and we get applicants from wards 1 through 8. And when it shakes out, we have our highest percentage of families from Ward 6, followed by Ward 7, followed by Ward 8. So we absolutely get to represent what the city actually looks like within our school every single day. And for students who don't join us at the middle school level, but started with us in PK3, they have a consistent presence of so many different layers of adults in their lives. Because of the Montessori model, middle schoolers can go back and read and mentor the primary pre-K3, pre-K4. They can be in the lower elementary. So they get in the habit of giving back pretty early in a safe space. Many of them partner with the music teacher. When it's time for the music teacher to work with the little students, they go and they volunteer. So they are developing a sense of I'm responsible for being a good role model for these students that are beneath down in the other levels, as well as I have so many adults that have taught me that I can go back if I'm having a bad day and connect with them. And I think something else that is really special about our school is that students are in a very small ratio, right? Because we do have a small middle school, and we're pretty much calm and predictable. And so, not every student would want to be in a tiny middle school, and not every student would want to be in a huge middle school, but we are an option for families who are looking for a smaller setting, albeit the algorithm has to work in their favor. But I really treasure the fact that we have such a diverse group of students and we get to see them grow through 11 grade levels. And then we open our arms to students who join us at the 6th grade, some at the 7th, and even at the 8th grade. And that's when we really are pushed and challenged to make them feel as if they're not new to us, especially when they're joining classmates that have been together since pre-K3, which, can be an interesting social experiment when you're the one that's coming into an already set group of friends, knowing how to be inclusive and include and become one big family.
Thank you. Principal Howard?
I think two things stand out for Jefferson for me. One, it's the legacy of tradition. As you see, we have a parent on the call who graduated Jefferson. We have many families whose families have gone to Jefferson. AP Giles mentioned Mr. TC went to Jefferson. We have teachers now who also graduated from Jefferson. And so that history, that tradition, that legacy is something that's really important to me. And then I think about the timeline that our teachers have been there. We have a pretty diverse staff as it relates to years of experience, but we have over half of our teachers have been in education over 10 years. Many of them have been at Jefferson that amount of time. And so they've seen the many iterations, have developed deep connections with families year after year. And so that is something that really speaks to me, especially because middle school is only 3 years. Having that continuity of care, if you will, both before they get to middle school and then long past their high school years.
Right. And then last but not least, Principal Miller.
Yeah, thanks again. So to everyone who's considering these middle schools, I can tell you from firsthand experience, I see the fruits of their labor coming through our doors as 9th graders. They are doing great work at each of these middle schools and preparing our young people to be successful at high school and beyond. So I can't say enough. And I've seen the progression in the last 10 years, having worked and lived here as well. And when it comes to Eastern in particular, we're just trying to build on their success, and I think we're doing that. We've grown to over 20% in the last 2 years. It's enabled us to do a lot of things and bring a lot of things to our students. We have a very, like Ms. Howard was saying, we have a very proud history as well. I've never been at a school with alumni like this that are just constantly coming back to the school, asking how they can get involved and help our students in life. So very, very proud and happy to be at Eastern. I can't recommend it enough. And these middle schools have really, really done great work in the last 10 years since I've been here. So I fully support each of these principals in their schools, and highly recommend you give them a good look before you make your decisions.
Awesome. Suzanne, you'll close it out. I did want to just quickly confirm, I did get a parent question about the recording, and I'm assuming you all will send out the recording to folks.
Yes, we will let people know how to access the recording. So I just want to wrap up and thank all the principals. I know all of you have incredibly demanding jobs, and thank you so much for taking time tonight to do this. I want to thank the parents who shared their experiences with the middle schools this evening, Catherine and Jean and Tahira. I also want to thank all the parents who sat here this evening and listened to this discussion. I appreciate how much you are invested in our neighborhood schools and your willingness to consider our neighborhood middle schools. And I want to thank Claudia for the work she did 10 plus years ago to bring the IB program to Eliot Hine and the middle school at Capitol Hill Montessori at Logan. And you're seeing the fruits of a lot of your labors in what's happened today with our middle schools. And thank you, Sandra, for setting this all up for us on Zoom. Couldn't have done it without you. So thank you, and enjoy the rest of your evening.